Become a Body Kindness Insider. Visit bodykindnessbook.com and click on Get Started. Because real health is about being good to yourself, it's time for Body Kindness, the place where all bodies fit and weight is just a number. Hi, I'm Rebecca Scritchfield, author of the book Body Kindness, registered dietitian nutritionist, and host of this podcast. Once a month, I check in with my good friend Bernie Salazar, the season 5 at-home winner of NBC's The Biggest Loser, and another former chronic dieter, on how we're doing on body kindness practice for mutual support and accountability. Well, today it's time for our monthly check-in with my good friend Bernie, and I just can't wait to catch up with you. I know last time we talked about that you had interest in going to see the doctor, and I think you have labs back now. Is that right?
Yes. Hello, everybody. I went ahead and did exactly what I said I was going to do, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I went to the doctor, went ahead and had labs done, the blood draw, the urine, the scale, talk with the doctor. And it's not something I normally am excited to do, but after our last conversation and just we talked about really keeping each other accountable, it's something that I felt I needed to know my numbers. So I did it, and the labs are back.
Cool.
So, dum.
Well, let's just do a really quick, I'm going to go where I think things have gone, and you can add in any color. We'll just do really quick to kind of catch people up just in case. So basically, we met years ago. So you went on The Biggest Loser. You were the at-home winner. We met, we did stuff together back when I was doing diety stuff. You were happy to do diety stuff, right? Yeah. We became friends, lost a connection, then reconnected when I decided to start this podcast, and I wanted somebody fun I could talk to. And I really had no idea where you were at in your life. But basically, you had gone through what we know scientifically as a weight cycle. So where you lose weight and you regain it. And when The Biggest Loser study came out in 2016, you were season 5. This was on season 6. So you basically trended similar to what was happening with the average contestants there, where we were finding out that there was problems metabolically with leptin and metabolism as a result of, on The Biggest Loser, it is crash dieting, but the way the study is presented is that even with slow and steady approaches, that weight lost is usually regained. But when we connected, you weren't necessarily kind of in a good place of taking care of yourself mentally, physically anyway. So we started kind of chatting and working on this whole idea of body kindness and self-care, and things got better for you. Still hadn't gone to a doctor or anything, but like life got better. Your habits were getting better over time. And then you told me that through this process that you also were losing weight. And I just want to be really clear, because if Body Kindness says do this and then you'll lose weight, it's just another diet. And it is absolutely not a diet. The whole point is that you focus on your habits, and weight, we try to neutralize it, right? It's hard to neutralize in diet culture, but weight is supposed to be this neutral thing that we observe. But weight loss was happening for you. But what I find really interesting, and it's great to want to go to the doctor and last time to take care of our medical health, but, you had a lot of negative past experience with the doctor. It was almost like you were going with this fear of doom, like I have to face the reality of how bad my health is.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that right? Am I accurate in that? Okay.
Yeah. So just to sum up what you said, not only had I gone through some weight cycles, I'd gone through a couple, I definitely wasn't taking care of myself in the way that I thought I knew I should be doing it. So that definitely led to our reconnection, which came at the perfect time. I was becoming a new father at that point and was starting to think of health as more than just myself. Long term, what was I going to be able to do for my daughter? Was I going to be able to be around and be a healthy dad and be active? So it was something that I felt that I needed to do. And over the course of our year, last year, you did introduce me to Body Kindness, and it was just a way for me to really connect with myself again in a completely different way. And it has helped. And like you said, one thing that we have talked about and stressed, and we know isn't at the core of any of this, is some weight loss. But what I did notice was my energy level has increased as a side effect. I happen to have lost a couple pounds, and I was really surprised because in our last podcast together had just brought it up. Hey, I need to go to the doctor. And it's something that I dreaded for a long time, just because all my past interactions have been the doctor literally, after seeing my weight and looking at me, saying, you need to lose weight. And this was before any labs were drawn or anything like that. I mean, it's the way that I've always been approached by doctors. I remember being 13 years old and the doctor looking at me right away and saying, well, you're much too big for your age. And I'm thinking to myself, well, gosh, all that schooling and that's what you're going to tell me?
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit quickly about, just some comparisons in your habits. I know before you've said that you're just making your own food more often rather than the easy way of buying it somewhere else.
Absolutely. So a lot of meals now are definitely done at home, and it's done in a way of love and nurturing, as opposed to, gosh, I really need to do that so I can nitpick everything that goes into it. It's more like, hey, I'm actually making a meal for my wife, for my daughter, myself, and a lot more cares going into it because I genuinely care about what goes into my daughter's diet, just to make sure she's getting all the nutrition that she needs, being a growing child, a growing baby, and being introduced to food. I want her relationship to be super healthy. So we have fun and we try different things. And so that's really changed in a big way. My relationship with food is just so much nicer. As far as movement, it's nowhere near what I would consider Biggest Loser days.
I don't know anybody who says, not even Olympic athletes. Even they get more rest, in my opinion, but.
Yeah, no. But the physical activity that I am getting is more revolved again around family and activities with my daughter. I now have a walker on my hands. So it's a lot of squatting and chasing and duck walking, it feels like, has been going on. So, my glutes are rocking right now.
That's funny. Okay. So you're at a point where you still feel like you want to make tweaks and improvements to your habits.
Oh, absolutely. I've always been very open with you and this podcast, and nowhere near where I want to be as far as the way that I'm feeling. I know that I'm still feeling sluggish a bit from time to time. And I know that the level of activity is only going to increase in my life through the demands of my growing little girl. So I just want to feel a little bit more energized. So that's one of the reasons why, especially on the last podcast, I said, I really need to see what's going on internally so I can just make some really educated moves when it comes to my health moving forward this year.
Right. Okay. And then how would you describe your body satisfaction? Like, just when you look in the mirror and you see your body as it is right now, do you feel that you need to work on self-acceptance? Do you feel like you're critical of your body still? Kind of where are you on that part?
So I do feel as though working on body acceptance is going to be something that I'm going to be dealing with for a while. I know that given my past experience, it's almost as though your success and your worth was based on an outer appearance, never mind the other positive things that you were doing with yourself. And that's just what I signed myself up for without knowing.
Yeah. I would say not almost. That is actually factual, scientific evidence. I'm still working on my script for my TEDx talk that's coming up, and was just reading these studies, and this did mention it was focused on women, but I believe that it crosses gender. But
I'm proof. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then it was like workplace, basically the heavier you are seen as lacking competence and intelligence. Fat women.
That's a whole other podcast, Rebecca.
I know. Okay. All right. But the bottom line is it's not almost. When you lost weight, you were being fed. Now you're more valuable. Now you're more worthy. Now you're more lovable.
Absolutely.
And that actually is really confusing.
That with being on television. So it's not just those reactions were multiplied. There's no doubt that somebody who never even watched the show just, I was being treated differently just from the outer appearance, but let alone people who had seen it. And then that's a different level of that.
And it's too bad, because I remember when I was watching the show, I was like, wow, these people are really changing their mindsets and their lives and da-da-da. And it was almost like I chose to ignore the extreme harm that was being caused, even if it made air. Well, it was like all I could focus on was like, oh, they seem so happy, way to go. And I think that was weight bias. They weigh less, therefore they're happier,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I can speak for myself. I was, because that's what I was fed. Hey, you're smaller now. Life is better. And those changes were kind of in one ear, out the other, because we never talked about long-term sustainability. I know that the show had made attempts after my season to have reunions where they talked about long-term sustainability and things like that. But I mean, they go back in their Rolodex, their yearbook and pick us up.
Yeah. See you later. We're on to the next season. Okay. So I think this is all very, very important because the reality of it is many people, especially in larger bodies, they avoid seeing the doctor because they don't want to feel the shame.
That was one of them. Absolutely. And that's why I think this was a huge step for me. So when we're talking about body kindness and these conversations that we've been having over the past year, really hitting home and me being forced to do something that maybe in the past I would have seen as not nice or negative.
Right.
It's something I didn't want to avoid this year.
Okay. So I want you to describe your exact experience in like a minute or two, just, kind of take us with you on what happened.
So I've done some moving this year. So that's one thing, but I did reconnect with a doctor that I had in the past and went out of my way to see this particular doctor, went there, let him know that this was just kind of a general wellness type check-in, that I wanted the labs done. And he was very receptive and I was really excited. It wasn't an experience that I thought I was going to have. I kind of laid some ground rules out first just to make sure that this was a doctor that I wanted to keep seeing. And I said, hey, listen, I understand that maybe outwardly you're going to say right away this or that, about my weight, but I want to know, based on my labs, once we get them back, what's your approach to getting me in a place where my numbers are going to be better? And right away he said, he wasn't one of those doctors that literally saw somebody who was heavier and right away was telling them to lose weight. So I was impressed with that. He kind of talked to me a little bit about the fact that doctors he has noticed that he himself isn't so quick to prescribe anything, but has in the past, because he says that the conversations that he's had with other clients of his, patients of his, they talk about a plan, about getting more active, about eating more nutritiously, and that they don't follow through. And that's why he feels in the past that he has gone that route, but that he's open to discuss and he's willing to discuss how changing and living life healthier can positively affect my numbers.
Okay.
So, I gave you a mouthful, but I was nervous. I kind of feel like I went in there guarded. That's why even in my conversation right now and describing it to you, I said ground rules. I was guarded, Rebecca, and I was pleasantly surprised by the conversation that I had. Although I definitely know that there was room for improvement on his part, and there was huge room for improvement on my part, which I want to call attention to, because I realized that I still don't, but I didn't know how to talk with my doctor and say, these are my concerns. This is what I'm feeling. This is what's going on. I forgot to tell him about a pinky finger of mine that was broken years ago and is still crooked and kind of starting to hurt now. And I didn't tell him about a situation that I had in the past year where I did end up hospitalized due to just an overall feeling of, gosh, I don't know if it was anxiety or what, but that was the first time that it ever happened to me. And then here I am in the doctor's office talking about wanting to know my numbers, and that slips my mind. So, again, you can tell listeners I'm sharing it all, but I realized that I was as much to blame as maybe the doctor was. And Rebecca, that actually came out in a conversation that we had because listeners, I'm going to tell you the truth. I called Rebecca up and said, this kind of was what my experience was like. And then you said, well, did you tell him about this? And did you tell him about that? And I was like, no, totally forgot to tell my doctor about that stuff. So I know next time I go in, which we can talk about what's realistic once we talk about what the labs show, I need to prepare. Like I need to write some things down. I have to write down the things I don't want to forget and the questions that I have when up at night or those types of things. I need to make sure I'm learning how to communicate.
Yeah. So when they said, okay, we have your labs back and you asked for a copy, did they say anything about what the numbers were showing at all?
Good. So this is interesting. And all right. So it took about 4 days. It was over the weekend. So it took some time to get them back. Got them back. Actually, I didn't get them back. I got a call from someone in the doctor's office, and they said, hey, Bernie, your labs are back. Everything looks good. Doctor just wanted us to give you a call. So then I said, thanks. And then I said, wait. Can you send those over? Because I realized that I was just so conditioned to say, okay, doctor says things are great. Maybe it's just my doctor's office, or maybe it's the fact that, I didn't specifically ask at the time that my labs were being taken, that I wanted a copy of all this stuff.
Yeah.
I literally just...
Like owning your health information.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This is my first medical report card, Rebecca, like ever, that I brought home, because I'm just take everybody's word for it. Oh, you're fine. Okay, you're not diabetic. That's great. Okay. Woohoo.
Well, but I do want to point out something. I mean, remember, you went in, right, even after making these behavioral changes that you're proud of, and as a side effect, losing some weight, but still not satisfied with your body. You went in, you basically discussed anticipating bad lab outcomes before you even drew your blood.
Oh,
and then you get them back and they say, everything looks great,
So that's a really good point. Yes, I did go in doom and gloom, but I did it in a nicer way. Yeah. But yeah, I was like, okay, I haven't been feeling super great. So I'm thinking to myself, gosh, is this, have I done this to what have I done to my body?
Right. And you have a family history of diabetes, right?
Yes.
So that's, you brought up a diabetes
pressure
concern.
And heart disease. So, I mean, I have that stacked against me genetically. So yeah, it was doom and gloom. And then I was surprised.
To be clear, your A1C, which is a 3-month long-term blood sugar control, is totally within the normal recommended range for a healthy person. You have no diabetes. You have no pre-diabetes. Correct, right?
Correct.
You do have an elevated LDL slightly, but your total cholesterol is under 200, and you have an HDL over 40, which is what's recommended. So that's why he wasn't concerned about your cholesterol levels. So when you bring up heart disease, do you get what I'm getting at? It's like, I think you still struggle with internalized weight bias, where you're not totally giving yourself credit for the good things that you are doing that are good for your health, that are represented in your lab. So yes, be aware. I have diabetes and heart disease in my family, cancer. So you be aware and you keep taking care of yourself. And so I think that's an important point to bring out. And that doesn't mean that you're like, oh, let's go to fast food and get a burger and fries. Like, no, because you don't want to do that anyway. But how do we put to rest the idea that medically you are a healthy person? How do we do that?
Well, again, it was seeing it on paper it was just nice to see, because again, as a society, and even me, because of my experience, I tend to judge health on appearance. I'm going around just judging the book by cover, and that's what happened. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the test came back, and other than the LDL being a couple points higher than it should be, I seem to be very healthy.
Yeah. Now, we had a separate conversation before this call just to kind of figure out where we were going to go and set some boundaries and everything like that. Just want to let the listeners know. But the point I want to bring up that I discovered after talking to you was, and I think this is related to when you mentioned on the call being hospitalized. I mean, from what I remember, you went to the ER because you were feeling heart palpitations and you were concerned that maybe something, basically, am I having a heart attack? And this was before, the pending move and what you were going to do. And so I was thinking panic attack, stress, and anxiety, because there was nothing that said, oh yeah, you're on the verge of a heart attack from that visit, right?
No. As a matter of fact, the doctor said you are experiencing high levels of stress, and that's what has happened to you, because labs were drawn at that time as well. Okay. And they came back normal, which kind of made me mad at the time. Because,
Find what's wrong with me.
Like, something's wrong with me and you're not finding it. And that was the first time that ever happened to me in my life. Yeah. And I didn't realize that high level of stress can put you on your butt. I never experienced that. And I don't think I would have ever fully understood unless I had gone through it. And I did. And it's very serious. We talk about stress all the time, and we actually read The Upside of Stress together. And that was, it's just, it was interesting. Yeah. So I think that's what was contributing to, I know that's what was contributing to the way I was feeling. Yeah. And from time to time still kind of does now. Yeah.
Well, that, and you were mentioning on the call earlier today, I still feel lethargic. And when we talked, you talked about almost like difficulty concentration, like a fog. Okay. So then do you remember what I asked you about? Remember my next question?
It was, how's your sleeping, right? Yes.
Oh, I love you. Okay.
No, and it made total sense because we did, after several minutes, if not half an hour of just talking, because it takes a lot to pull things out of me. On the air, on the podcast, I'm an open book, but it's because of all the work that Rebecca and I do before
the sidebars.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, I've been getting, if I'm lucky, about 4 to 4.5 hours of sleep a night.
Yeah.
Just sleeping kind of restlessly. As a matter of fact, to be completely honest, I'm going on 4 hours right now.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, a body cannot function on that. I mean, literally, people can listen to the sleep podcast. There's all kinds of stuff in Sleep on Body Kindness, but literally, I mean, your hormones that affect your energy, your appetite, what you crave, like in the late stages of sleep, you literally decide what you're going to commit to memory and what kind of trash you're going to throw out. And 4 hours consistently is not enough. You're definitely going to be low on leptin, which is the satisfied hormone, and higher on ghrelin, which is the hunger appetite, because your cells are hungry and they're starving. So this is not a shame on you, Bernie type thing, but this is I think, and there are definitely things that impact your sleep. But my challenge to you is, number one, accept that medically you are healthy. Mentally is the bigger problem right now. And it's mental because how are you handling life's roller coasters that I think is a higher intensity for you right now? Like you're standing on shaky ground that's impacting your sleep beyond being a new dad, right? So there's the lack of sleep of parenting, but it's more than that. You go to bed too late, difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep. Nobody, maybe 2 to 5% of the population can function well on that little sleep. And that's what I think deserves your attention.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that I know that when I was feeling at my best, I was definitely getting anywhere from 6 to 8.5, at 6.5 to 8.5.
Yeah.
I was getting and it was really nice and sound sleep. It's something that I can definitely work on. I know I need to.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think this should really carry over to the next month's update. A certain sense of life has difficulty and we can't necessarily get through it alone, right? So I think taking the time to get crystal clear, what is worrying you? What is bothering you? What is not going well in your life right now that you want to change? And maybe even not directly in the health column, but just what are the types of things that are contributing to your stress and anxiety? Because certainly those things can impact your food choices and your exercise choices and everything. But with what you're talking about with the fog and just kind of this feeling low energy, I just think it's related to this combination of stress and sleep impact that certainly can impact all your other self-care choices, kind of like that downward spiral. But the way that you get through that, I think, is through some honest reflection with yourself and talking with your wife and whomever's in your like little solar system of close connection. I hope I'm there too, but like have some conversations, do some journaling, do some thinking about why does life not feel that stable right now, and what you do and don't have control over, right? And some boundaries you want to set for while I'm going through this difficulty. Here's what I'm still going to do for my health and well-being. Here's the work I'm going to put on sleep. If I notice body bashing, here's how I'm going to handle that. I've got evidence that I'm medically healthy. And I think that is what is going to help you. Taking action on the things that are bothering you will help you reduce stress and it will help you feel better. But I don't necessarily think that until we fix sleep and you're still foggy and still heart palpitations and still low energy, I'm blaming that. I honestly think that's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why I went ahead and moved forward in getting all this done. I want to be very proactive in being the best version of me possible. So I definitely can start really monitoring and doing my best to get some more hours. I know that I can because it's not the little one that's keeping me up at night. So I'm going to do my best to kind of figure out how to get more time in. Also, I think you make a really good point. Just start talking about and writing down and kind of working through some of the other concerns that I feel might be keeping me up at night. And I'd be more than happy to share some of those. I know that there's listeners out there, Rebecca, and that's one of the reasons, not just for myself, but we've talked about this before. I know there's people that can probably relate and stay up at night just thinking about things that they have no control over. So,
oh yeah, we are all in that boat. It just depends on when and where. And, so many factors in and out of our control can impact that. So yeah, I think that would be a wonderful thing to focus on for next month's update. I would try maybe start by 1 hour. So if you're getting between 4 and 5, get between 5 and 6 consistently and let that feel pretty good. And then another hour, 6 to 7. And certainly if your body crashes out and you get a full 8, I'm not saying don't do 8, but 8 is the recommended, but be consistent with that extra hour, then another hour until we get that fix. And we'll see how that resolves.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because the truth is, being able to kind of break it down that way in small doable steps, even when it comes to sleep, I want to see what the changes are. I think that I'm in a unique position myself, that we're focusing on improving that aspect of my health to see what the actual impact is. And I know there's a lot of listeners out there as well that are probably thinking to themselves, yeah, well, it's impossible. Well, how much can half an hour extra of sleep really benefit me? Let's find out. I mean, I can tell you my perspective and what I'm learning. And hopefully that moves some of the listeners to kind of start caring for themselves differently when it comes to sleep as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And I know you need to go. Just before you go, what I wanted to ask, is there anything that you would want to say to listeners who can really relate to this whole doctor thing and this whole, my labs must be bad? What would you say to people?
Oh my gosh, it is so important. And I hope you are not just hearing me, but you're seeing me. That might scare some of you, but it's so worth going and finding out exactly where you're at. And it may not come back all rainbows and butterflies here, but it's so important for you to know where you're at, what you're up against, what you're dealing with, why you're not feeling maybe tip top. It's just so important to go and know your numbers. And I know that I'm not being the most articulate right now, but it was a fear that I had. I went ahead and did it, and I couldn't be happier that I did. And it wasn't just because of the results. It's because at this point in my life, I wanted to make sure that I was doing what was responsible and what was kind for myself so that I can model that not just to my little one, but to my loved ones around me. Rebecca, it was a great experience. And I was definitely dreading it. So I would tell our listeners, take the time, make that appointment. The hardest part is just getting there. It really is.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you. I mean, it was a huge step. We've talked before about avoidance and being a avoider and you faced it. And, you're right. Not that it's everyone's promised outcome, but there are many people in larger bodies whose labs are great. And even if your behaviors are off, focus on your behaviors, but it's we're not going to hate ourselves healthy. Fear is not going to make us healthier. We get the information.
Well, not just that, Rebecca, but what I thought was interesting too is, listen, if I was genuinely disheartened by some of the experiences I had with other doctors. So much in the same way, you're going to try out a new workout class or a new restaurant. If you don't like it, you don't go back. You don't do it. So be selective. Have conversations with your doctor. If they're not the right doctor for you and you're walking out feeling like crap as a result of taking that awesome step of trying to know what you look like on the inside, then get a different doctor.
Yeah. I love it.
It's that easy. And if you really, for some reason, love the doctor you have and you want to help walk them through what it means to be a kinder, more caring doctor for their patients, give them body kindness.
Yeah, there we go. I like that too. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing everything. And we will be in touch. And then, of course, we'll check back in again in a month and talk about how we're doing with mental well-being and sleep as the main focus and see if there's any improvement with the brain fog and the low energy that you've been feeling too.
Sounds awesome. Rebecca, thanks for having me again. I love our talks.
Thank you for inspiring so many people. The Body Kindness Classroom is coming. If you're ready for some radical collaboration, check out bodykindnessbook.com and check out Shop for more information. We're going to be having classes on body kindness calm and body kindness food. I'll see you in school.